Looks like Sony's winning again. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the final conference of the night. Sony, and yeah, I'm gonna say this right now. So far, Sony had the best conference. Now, why is that? Well, now in terms of games, they didn't show off too much. But let's go through the games first before I get to the thing that really stuck out to me as why I really liked their conference. They started out with a live performance from an orchestra that they had at the scene, and they played this interesting music piece, and I just sort of think, okay, is this God of War? It's like, and then they showed a gameplay trailer for a new God of War, which apparently is set during Norse mythology for once. That was really interesting. I liked the gameplay. I liked the themes that they were showing there. And you really got emotionally attached in the trailer a little bit, especially with the deer hunting and and the connection between Kratos and his son. I really like this. It was a pretty good trailer. Then they showed off Days Gone. Well, they showed off a little CG trailer. At first, they got back to this game later. Actually, that was the final game that they showed off. They showed off a gameplay trailer for that one. Looks like a generic sort of copy of Last of Us, really. That's kind of what it was. Nothing too spectacular. It wasn't really anything special. Then they showed a trailer for Last Guardian, and they gave us a release date. 25th of October this year. They finally gave us a release date on that game. So, now's the time. So, I know it's from the same people who made Shadow of the Colossus, and I played Shadow of the Colossus. I thought it was really good. If nothing else, I kind of want to buy the game just for the soundtrack. I've heard good things about Ico as well. I haven't played it yet, but I've heard good things about that one too, so I might consider picking up Last Guardian if I like Ico. Yeah. That's coming out soon. Then we had a long gameplay trailer on Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm really interested in that game now after seeing that trailer. It looks like sort of a mix. It looks very similar to something like Batman or Shadows of Mordor. I really like that because it looks really good. I like the themes that you put into it. I like the sort of gameplay that you get into with it. It looks like it also has dialogue options, which is really nice. And so you get some role playing elements into it as well. I mean, it's had that before, but I like this. I really do. So that's a game I'm really looking forward to. Then they had a trailer called Detroit Become Human. Essentially, it's a game about this android who basically is sent on a mission by the local police, I think, to deal with a hostage situation. And apparently you can redo it and do it in different ways if you gather enough clues, do things to show different scenarios of how things can play out. I guess. It was a bit weird. I don't think... I'm not too interested in that, but the trailer was okay. Sort of blended a little bit of CG and gameplay. Then they showed off a very interesting trailer. It was basically very... sort of a horror game-like kind of thing, and it was set during the earlier ages with the VHS tapes and all that. It looked kind of interesting, and then something popped up where it said the Roman numeral for 7. Like, okay, what is that? And then the rest of the title was revealed to be Resident Evil. So apparently, Resident Evil 7 is going to be more of a horror game. That was really shocking to me, and that was very interesting. I mean, I've never really played a Resident Evil game. I have been thinking about trying 4 at some point because I've heard that really good things about that one. So I might consider that. But this they were basically showing it off as sort of a VR game. Well, and that was something they spent a lot of time on afterwards, showing off a lot of different VR games, like VR missions for EA's Battlefront, basically where you play in the X-wing. You had a different VR game. You had a VR Arkham game. That was really interesting. They had a trailer narrated by Mark Hamill's Joker, and yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I'm not interested in VR whatsoever, but that was interesting that they got Mark Hamill back for that. Then they had Final Fantasy 15, and then they showed up Final Fantasy 15, just a little bit of it, and they added that there were VR missions in there, and apparently the character in the game also wears the VR goggles. But also they have released that they're going to release their VR goggles soon for a decent price, I guess. And then we had Then we showed off the new Call of Duty game called Infinite War. I think that was the name of it. And then they also show that they're doing a remaster of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which I've heard is the best Call of Duty, one of the best Call of Duty games. So that's nice for those who are fans of Call of Duty. And then they got my hopes up really a lot, because the president of Sony came out, and I heard heard some music. They were playing some music that was very familiar to me, and then I saw Crash Bandicoot's shadow behind them. I was like, did they get Crash back? And then they announced they were going to have remasters of, I think it was Crash 3, Wrath of Cortex, maybe the original games as well. So some remasters of those, and Crash Bandicoot is going to be in Skylanders. First Spyro, now Crash. I would have liked to actually see a new Crash game, because I really like the Crash games. Whatever. Then they had a trailer for the new Lego Star Wars game, which is based on just the new Star Wars film. Nothing else, apparently. Not interested in the slightest, not just because I'm not a fan of the movie, but also because I really hate it when they release games that are based solely on one Lego games that are based solely on one movie. It's like, if you're going to do a Lego game based on Star Wars, you could have waited until you had the rest of the movie itself, like you did with the other ones. Then you had then they had Hideo Kojima come out, and he revealed a new game that he had been working on called Death Stranding. Essentially, you have this man wake up among a lot of dead crabs, trying to cradle this young child who turns out to not be there, or maybe it's really weird, but the graphics are really good, so I'm interested to see what they're planning for. And then they revealed a new Spider-Man game is coming. There were a few gameplay elements there, but there's a new Spider-Man game coming out. They didn't really have a name for it other than PS4. It's Spider-Man PS4. It's apparently being developed by Insomniac, which I believe they made some of the older Spider-Man games, which I think I've seen one of them in a Let's Play, and it looked pretty good. So this could potentially be a really good one. I'm hoping that, like, I mean, you need I'm hoping whatever Spider-Man game they're going to come up with, I'm hoping it's something that could potentially rival Batman Arkham City as my favorite superhero game. So we'll see. And that was it. I mean, I've already mentioned that they showed Days Gone last. So why do I consider this the better conference overall than everything else? Simple. They learned. Show, don't tell. Most of the conference was no talking. They had the president of Sony come up a couple of times, but mostly it was to talk a little bit, introduce the conference, talk about the recent events in Orlando, the basics like everyone else, and they had one guy come up to introduce Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima said something very briefly, but for the most part, it was just trailer after trailer after trailer, gameplay, trailers, gameplay, gameplay within trailers. A lot. They showed off a lot in a short amount of time span, and I like that because it gets everything that we as an audience want. Like, we don't care about everything else, like all the musical performances, or talk about the tech all the time. I mean, they did show off the VR thing, but they never wasted my time. They showed games. That was the thing. They didn't waste my time for too long, ever. It's like, yeah, sure, I don't care about the VR stuff, but for those who do, they showed games. I may not be interested in Days Gone, but for those who are, they showed gameplay. They showed gameplay, they showed games, everything. They didn't blow my mind like they did last year. Like, last year they were great. This year, they were just really good. Solid conference. I think they were pretty much the best conference. Like, Microsoft, they started off really well, but then sort of fell under during the middle. This one was just constant gameplay, constant showing of new games, and I really like that. Show, don't tell. That's essentially the point of it. As for a rating, I think I'm gonna go with probably an 8 out of 10. Actually, I actually really liked this conference. It was pretty good. It wasn't a mind-blowing, spectacular conference. I mean, there are things I would have liked to see, some news about Kingdom Hearts 3, the new Injustice game. I would have liked to see some of that. Some more stuff from, a little bit more on Final Fantasy 15, or some more on Tekken 7. But I guess I got the most of that during Microsoft. Like, Microsoft spent longer, but it started to wear off. Sony just constantly kept it going and just never really lost their steam too often. I really like this. So, yeah. I believe tomorrow we have a Nintendo event, I believe, of some kind, just full on Treehouse, that's it. It seems to be mainly concerning Zelda, and I think there is something about Square Enix tomorrow, but I'm not entirely sure. Or, in my time zone, later today, but either way. That's my plan for tomorrow, for later, to work, to see those conferences. But so far, in my opinion, so far, Sony's winning. I'm giving Nintendo the benefit of the doubt that they can change it, but I don't believe they will, considering that they're not going to show up that they're barely going to show up anything else than Zelda. I will say this: there is one thing they can do that will make it really close to beating Sony. If they announce that Pokemon Sun and Moon will remove Mega Evolutions, if they announce that, they will be very close to being the best conference just for that. Either way, I probably will have some thoughts on Nintendo tomorrow, so I'll see you then. And Square Enix, if they have something, I will talk about that in the same video probably. Hopefully they won't be as terrible as they were last year.